So this is the worst book that you should absolutely read. Hello friends, I am the Life Professor. I'm a Doctorate of Business student and literature enthusiast, and in the world of literature, there are many texts that loom large as terrible books to slog through, and at the top of that pile is probably Ulysses. This is a book that consistently shows up as one of the hardest books to read, and I agree with every complaint, and I still love it. And in this video, we're going to go over 3 reasons why you should read this often terrible, headache-inducing book. So to get started, let's let Salman Rushdie just give us a synopsis of the plot to let us know what we're getting into.
Middle-aged, cuckolded, Jewish advertising salesman walks around Dublin for the day, leches after club-footed girl at beach, goes to red light district, gets even more drunk, meets young guy, brings him home in the middle of the night, maybe tries to pimp out his wife to young guy. The end.
Yeah.
Yep, that's about it. But what makes Ulysses Ulysses is how this story is told. And it uses some of the most interesting tropes and methods I have ever seen collected into one text. Basically, every chapter is written in a different style. One is written like newspaper headlines. One's written like a scientific text. The good one's written in question and answers. And the others are written in the stream of consciousness. By using these methods, James Joyce is able to describe and make us understand just how intricate these characters really are. As an example, Bloom's stream of consciousness sections are so much easier to understand than Stephen's because Bloom has a much smoother brain than Stephen. It's also able to take the perspective of like an entire street of people or like mimic a court case, which is something that you probably aren't going to see in too many other books. And the reason why Joyce is able to tell this wild story with about 40,000 different perspectives and all these different storytelling methods, and it still make somewhat sense, is that when you pulled up the hood and look and see what the engine of this story is, it's the most classic, tried and true story of all time, the Odyssey. With a little bit of Hamlet, but mostly the Odyssey. Odyssey is, of course, the ancient Greek tale of Odysseus, or Ulysses, as he's known in the Latin version, of him trying to get back home to his family. The innovation that Joyce is going to make here is that in his twisted retelling of this story, everything's going to be flipped upside down. Odysseus is going to be Leopold Bloom, Penelope is going to be Molly Bloom, his wife, and Telemachus, his son, is going to be Stephen Dedalus. By using this bedrock of a story, Joyce is going to be able to have so much fun telling his because he does not have to create the scaffolding on which he's going to hang this story. And by using the most revered and ancient text possible, he's going to create the most experimental postmodern work of literature in this grand irony. And he's going to tell this story by doing everything short of creating his own language. Throughout the text, he's constantly combining words. Like on the first page, it's not yellow dressing gown, it's yellow dressing gown, one word. And people have been sued to make sure that that is published as one word. So you better read it like that, because it's the law. So he also does this thing where we have like these absurdly long descriptions. And in my favorite section of the book, he combines both of these elements to describe the citizen in the Cyclops chapter. The figure seated on the large boulder at the foot of the round tower was that of the broad-shouldered, deep-chested, strong-limbed, frank-eyed, red-haired, freely freckled, shaggy-bearded, large-nosed, long-headed, deep-voiced, bare-kneed, brawny-handed, hairy-legged, ruddy-faced, sinew-armed hero. And it's not even done. The description goes on for like a page afterwards, and then they name like every human in existence. So he's also throwing in like all these multiple languages and he's doing all these weird tricks. But the important thing to remember when you're reading this book is that none of this actually matters, which brings me up to my second point. So yeah, Ulysses is the Seinfeld of literature. So it's taking one of the most famous and influential journeys of all time, where this Greek hero takes a year to return back to his home, and instead it's this schmuck who walks around a city for a day. But this is what makes this book so good, is that it's about nothing. It's about just a completely normal day, where it has these absurd things that happen in a day, but are never given any kind of respect that they deserve. like in real life. So no other text I've ever experienced gives the respect that is honestly like deserved of these mundane events like Ulysses does. Ulysses' greatest accomplishment is by elevating the mundane and the profane to these esteemable levels. It's got these completely average, maybe not completely average characters, but they're going through their everyday life, doing their everyday things. So one of the ways that Joyce is able to like encapsulate life is you, the reader, are assaulted with like 40 billion references to like these absurdly niche cultural touchstones and like literature and blah, 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 blah. And it's all coming to you at 40 billion miles an hour. And these stream of consciousness sections are legitimately hard to read because it is the mirror that is held up to the reader, because this is what it is like to be human. To completely understand Ulysses, you have to have like this complete understanding of Bible, Irish history, literature, the development of the English language. The list goes on. There are annotated books that are describing what's going on in Ulysses that are like twice as long as Ulysses, which is, already like a door stopper. There's no way that you as the reader are expected to understand any of this. I think is possibly best noted in this original New York Times review. I venture a prophecy. Not 10 men or women out of 100 can read Ulysses through. And of the 10 who succeeded in doing so, 5 of them will do it as a tour de force. But what is so beautiful about this is that this is probably as close to an encapsulation of life in text that we can probably get to. Like if you wrote down every thought that passed through your mind in a day, you would have to have like the 1,000-page annotated book to explain all the inside jokes and references that go through your mind. So one of the reasons why this is such a slog to get through for a reader is that you're having to trudge through this mountain of like the mind's reports for these, fully developed characters. That's a lot to ask for from a reader. In fact, it's literally an impossible task. And what makes Ulysses so beautiful is that every person who reads it is going to pick up on different, allusions that are made in the text. So, and to go back to that original New York Times review, Joyce is the only individual that I have encountered outside of a madhouse who has let flow from his pen random and purposeful thoughts just as they are produced. He does not seek to give them orderliness, sequence, or interdependence. He holds with Freud that the unconscious mind represents the real man, the man of nature, and the conscious mind, the artifice man, the man of convention, of expediency, the slave of Miss Grundy, the sycophant of the church, the plastic puppet of society and state. To Joyce, it is only through these unedited, unpunctuated streams of consciousness that you're able to truly understand these characters, which brings up my third point. So it is often stated that Ulysses is a book that is more often discussed than read. And I'm going to say that is a good thing. So there's a reason why so many authors list Ulysses as a direct inspiration. It's because it is an inspirational book to read, but maybe not the reason why you think it is. So many times while I was reading it, I was like, dang, man, I wish I could write like a good one of these. So all the storytelling methods and techniques that are used are just so inspirational for a creative, because it's like, I didn't think that this could happen. So Joyce is truly the writer's writer. I am not going to say that this is a book for civilian use, because it's frankly not. So, and there are times where this is completely just unreadable. I mean, just full stop. But is somehow through this quagmire of a story, you're able to flesh out such like well-developed and lovable characters that will stay with you long after the book is finished. So many times in modern storytelling, we get into this rut of making all of our characters these paragons of virtue who are just, they do everything right. But one of the reasons why Ulysses is able to be such a memorable story is that by using these ancient storytelling methods where, the characters are oftentimes not great people. These are not people that you would honestly want as friends, but they are real people. And we miss so much of that in our modern sanitized characters that have none of these flaws. Because without these nuances, a story is like a home without plum trees, potted meat. It is incomplete.